Aryna Sabalenka was photographed training at Atlantis the Royal in Dubai. Then, just days later, she withdrew from both the Doha and Dubai WTA 1000 events, citing a right hip injury. That one sequence of events lit a fuse. Tournament director Salah Tahlak turned it into a full public demand for ranking point penalties against the world number 1. And somewhere in the middle of that fallout, a $1.6 billion contract rumor got attached to Alex Eala's name and detonated across Facebook and TikTok before a single fact-checker could touch it. But here's what this story is actually about. It's not jealousy. It's two athletes living in two completely different financial realities and an information ecosystem that worked over time to make sure nobody could tell the difference. So let's start with where both players actually stand. As of February 23, 2026, Aryna Sabalenka is world number 1 with $1,606,482 in year-to-date prize money. And she got there in just 2 tournaments. She opened the year by winning the Brisbane International, defeating Marta Kostyuk in the final, and banking $214,530. Then came Melbourne. Elena Rybakina took apart Sabalenka in the Australian Open final, wiping out a 3-0 lead in the final set. Sabalenka still walked away with $1,391,952 as runner-up, but she also walked into a storm. Pat Cash called it a capitulation. Annabelle Croft went further, describing Sabalenka's on-court behavior as immature. The world number 1 by any standard was being hit from every direction. Alex Eala came into 2026 from a very different place. She was hovering somewhere between the low 30s and high 40s in the rankings at the start of the year. Her total career prize money had just crossed $1.66 million, which, to put it plainly, is less than what Sabalenka made in January alone. But that number doesn't tell you anything about what's actually building around Eala's name.
Tennis fans, once again, after Aryna Sabalenka said that she would not be getting any star treatment at the Slams next year. I'll discuss whether Aryna is truly being snubbed by the swoosh brand.
And that's where this gets interesting. On February 10th, 2026, posts started flooding Facebook and TikTok with one claim: Abu Dhabi billionaire Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan had offered Alex Eala a $1.6 billion contract, $1 billion upfront, $600 million a year for 10 years, all to make her the face of a brand new UAE tennis championship. Now, to understand just how absurd that number is, you need one reference point. The most expensive sports contract ever verified belongs to Juan Soto. That deal totals $700 million. The Sheikh Mansour rumor was describing something 10 times larger. Fact-checkers went in, found the viral graphics were composite edits, and confirmed the whole thing was fabricated from the ground up. Total fiction. But this wasn't the end of it. Running alongside the Sheikh Mansour story was a separate rumor that Wilson Sporting Goods had offered Eala a $45 million endorsement deal. It even came with a quote, supposedly from Eala herself, saying she'd use the money to help others. The problem? Eala is a long-term Babolat athlete. She's been with the brand for years, using the Pure Aero 2023 racket. She has no affiliation with Wilson whatsoever. And that quote they used? It was stolen, lifted directly from an unrelated article about a professional golfer, and dropped into the story as if Eala had said it. Eala herself made clear she was troubled by how fast this kind of misinformation was spreading through her fan base. Now here's the correction this story needs most. There is no verified record, none, of Aryna Sabalenka making any derogatory or comparative comment about Alex Eala's finances. Real or fabricated? The entire going-off framing that's been driving clicks? It's a misattribution. What Sabalenka actually triggered was her withdrawal from Doha and Dubai. Salah Tahlak, the Dubai tournament director, was not quiet about it. He'd just overseen a 2,000-seat expansion of Dubai's Court 1, infrastructure built specifically to handle the crowds that come when players like Sabalenka show up. When she withdrew, especially after being photographed training at Atlantis the Royal, Tahlak went public. He questioned whether the injury was even real, pointing out the tournament's own doctor had described it as minor. Then he pushed for something bigger. He called for Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek to be docked ranking points, not just fined.
She's been in the headlines this season alone multiple times. First for smashing her racket following her Australian Open loss to Madison Keys, and then of course
arguing that money alone isn't a deterrent for players already earning millions. Coco Gauff pushed back, defending the right to withdraw for health and noting that players already lose potential points when they pull out. But Talak's position was clear. Tournaments are spending at record levels. When stars don't show, that investment loses value fast. And this is where things shifted. Because the prize money environment in 2026 isn't growing, it's tightening. The Indian Wells Masters, the event players have long called the fifth Grand Slam, cut its total prize pool by 2.87% this year, down from $19,387,080 in 2025 to $18,831,450. The men's singles champion prize dropped 4.14% from $1,201,125 to $1,151,380. At the same time, players are pushing for larger revenue shares. Those two things are on a collision course. For Sabalenka, this isn't abstract. She reached the Indian Wells final in 2025 and earned $599,625 for that run. The same result in 2026 produces a lower inflation-adjusted return. For a player whose real frustration is about how tournament management treats her health decisions, that shrinking prize money is a pressure that compounds everything else. And here's what the viral chaos buried completely. In 2025, Aryna Sabalenka earned approximately $30 million across prize money and legitimate endorsements. That made her the second highest-paid female athlete in the world, behind only Coco Gauff. Let that sit for a second. The player being framed as going off over Eala's supposed billions is a $30 million a year athlete who has already surpassed every financial milestone those fake rumors were pretending to describe. The jealousy narrative isn't just misleading, it's mathematically impossible. What Sabalenka actually directed her frustration toward was Talak's public accusations and the WTA's apparent inability to protect players from tournament directors using the press as a weapon. Strip away the rumor and the rivalry framing, and what you have is a labor dispute, dressed up to look like something more personal. None of this takes anything away from what Alex Eala has actually built, because what she's built is real, and it has nothing to do with fake contracts. Eala reached a career-high ranking of number 31 on February 23rd, off the back of a Dubai run that included one of the most significant results of her career. On February 17th, she upset Jasmine Paolini, the world number 8, making her the youngest Asian player ever to record multiple top 10 wins on the WTA Tour. In the quarterfinal against Coco Gauff, she lost 0-6, 2-6, and she didn't sugarcoat it afterward. She said the gap between herself and the elite top 5 was prominent. Her first serve percentage against Gauff was 57%. She won just 30% of those points. The technical distance to the very top is real. But here's the number that explains why billion-dollar rumors attach themselves to her name in the first place. As of February 2026, Alex Eala has over 920,000 Instagram followers, with an engagement rate of 15 to 20%. That's triple the WTA average for top-tier players. In Dubai, where roughly 10% of the population is Filipino, her matches weren't just tennis matches. Tournament directors described the atmosphere as a home game. Stadiums packed, fans praying for every point. She was drawing larger crowds and generating more social media engagement than multiple top 10 players, Sabalenka included. Her actual sponsor list reflects that reach. Nike, Babolat, Globe Telecom, Bank of the Philippine Islands, Milo. Not a fictional billion-dollar UAE deal. A real, growing, regionally dominant commercial presence that keeps compounding. Both players are now heading into the North American hardcourt swing, the Sunshine Double, Indian Wells and Miami. Sabalenka is defending the Miami Open title with a $1.1 million plus winning check on the line in a season where prize pools are already being trimmed. If March goes wrong, her grip on world number 1 becomes vulnerable to Elena Rybakina and Iga Swiatek, and that has direct consequences for how her endorsement valuations look heading into 2027. For Eala, the goal is to use that number 31 ranking to secure a seeded position at Indian Wells and Miami. A seed means avoiding Sabalenka, Gauff, or Rybakina in the opening rounds, and a cleaner path to the deep runs that would start to close the on-court earnings gap. Her management will almost certainly use the Paolini win to push for more domestic Philippine endorsements, building on the $129,332 in early season on-court earnings that some trackers have reported. So the question that no viral hoax and no tournament director dispute has come close to answering is this: can Alexandra Eala take 920,000 engaged followers and a triple average engagement rate and translate it into Grand Slam quarterfinals and semifinals? Or will the icon economy she's built permanently outrun her ability to compete with Sabalenka, Gauff, Rybakina, and Swiatek when it actually counts? Because that gap, the one Eala herself admitted was prominent, is the only controversy in this story that's actually real.